Hey everyone, this is Yash Sharma. Welcome to part two of the video. In part one, we saw what is data persistence and how we can implement different data persistence techniques in Flutter. Now we will look into push notifications. We will be looking at what are push notifications, how to implement them using FCM. We'll also have a short demo. We will also discuss the best practices for both data persistence and push notifications. So let's begin. Now let's start with push notifications. Push notifications basically serve as a means of engaging the user even when the app is not running actively on the device or even if the app is terminated. We use push notifications to share any relevant information about the app or any promotional event or to just communicate with the user. Now, there are some key points. First, FCM, which is Firebase Cloud Messaging. It's a cloud-based messaging service provided by Google for developers to implement push notifications in their app, and it has some great support for Flutter. Now, Flutter itself provides some great features for implementing push notification. You can use device-specific implementations. Basically, you will be able to implement it separately for each device that Flutter supports. You can implement it for Android, iOS, or any other platform that you would like to use. Notification customization. Basically, with Flutter, you'll be able to customize the way your notification looks on the user's device. You'll be able to change the color, the text, the font, and even the placement of the text. Finally, handling the notification. With Flutter, you'll be able to handle the interactions that the user makes with the notification with ease. You'll be able to implement better user experiences with this feature. Now, let's look into how we can implement push notification in Flutter using FCM. Here we can see how FCM internally works. Basically, whenever we register a device on FCM, we receive a token, and using that token, we can send a notification. Whenever we send a notification, FCM handles it internally. If it is iOS device, it will send the notification through APNS, or if it is a Android device, it will handle appropriately. Now let's look into how we can implement FCM in our Flutter project. We'll start with setting up FCM in Firebase console, adding the dependencies, initializing Firebase in our app, and also handle the incoming notification. We'll also test our implementation using Firebase console. So let's start with the demo. Now I've already created a default Flutter project. Let's see how we can add Firebase and FCM to it. We'll be using Flutterfy, an amazing tool for this. We can activate Flutterfy using this command, dart sub global activate Flutterfy CLI. Once we are done with that, we need to use Firebase login for logging into our Firebase account, basically the account that you'll be using to create the project. Once we are done with that, just run Flutterfy configure and it will handle the rest. It will fetch all your Firebase projects and you can select which project you want to use or you can just create a new one. I've already created a project for me, so I'll be using that. You can select the platforms on which you want to implement. Right now, I'll just select all of them. As you can see, it's registering my Android app, my iOS app, and all other platforms that we have selected automatically directly from the CLI. So we don't need to go to the Firebase console and do it manually. Now, as you can see, it has already registered my app on all the platforms that I selected and all the platforms that Firebase supports. It has given me the Firebase app ID for all the platforms and has generated this Firebase options file, which is really useful when you want to have specific cross-platform implementation like that we talked about. So after doing this, we need to add the Firebase core plugin. And just with that, we have successfully integrated Firebase to our project. Now let's look into how we can add FCM. We'll be using Firebase messaging plugin, which is provided by Firebase for Flutter. With this, we have added FCM library to our project. Let's look into how we can actually start listening to the Now, this is our startup project running. We have added the FCM dependency and the Firebase core dependency to this project. Now, let's see how we can handle these notifications and how we can test them. First, we need to initialize the Firebase app in the main function. It's a really important step. Next, once we have added the FCM dependency, it already adds support for receiving background notifications in our app. So we don't need to do anything for that. Using the Firebase messaging instance, as we can get the token, basically a token for the device that we will use for sending notifications. Once we get that, we can use that token to send notifications to that specific device. Now, Firebase messaging provides us with certain streams that we can listen to for implementing and for customizing the way we want to display the notification. Using the on message stream, we can listen whenever notification is received in the foreground. Here in this demo, we'll be just showing a dialog box whenever we receive a notification with the notification body. We can customize it to any way we like, but for this demo, we'll be just showing a dialog box. Next, using the on message open stream, we can listen to whenever the user opens the message. This stream is useful when we want to implement any kind of functionality related to uh, opening a particular chat or anything like that. With this, we have finished implementing FCM in our Flutter project. Now we can further customize it as per our needs, but this is the basic stuff that we need to create to implement this. Now let's test our implementation. I'm restarting the app. Here we have the token for this device that I'm using. Once we have the token, just go to Firebase console. Inside that, you have to go to messaging, and then you need to create your first campaign. Select Firebase notification messages, enter a title for that notification. I'll be using text and text body. Once you have added the title and the body, just go to send text message and add the token here. I've already added the token, so I'll be using that. Uh, once we tap on test, we'll receive a notification on our device. First, we'll see how it looks on the foreground. As you can see, this is a notification. On the foreground, we are showing a dialog box. Now let's see how it looks in the background. Now, as you can see, we have received the notification from our FCM server. Now, this notification can be customized, can be personalized based on your needs. But for any kind of implementation for FCM, these basic steps are needed. After looking into how we can implement data persistence and push notifications, it's really important to understand the best practices to follow while implementing them. First, for data persistence, it's really important to choose the right data storage. It's also important to take care of data security and to provide offline support. Finally, it's also important to streamline the process for backing up and storing this data for the user. For push notifications, it's a must that we give the user an ability to opt in, to grant, or to revoke the permissions for notifications. It's also advisable to personalize and target these notifications for greater effectivity. Finally, it's also important to take care of frequency and timing of these notifications so we don't end up spamming the user. We should also keep the user notification preferences in mind, basically what the user prefers and how they would like their notifications to be delivered. In conclusion, we learned about what is data persistence, how we can implement in our service project,
We also learned different types of data persistence and when to use what. After that, we looked into personifications and how we can implement them in our Flutter app using FCM. In short, using these features, we'll be able to provide a great user experience and increase the quality of our app. I hope you find this video useful and thank you for being here with me.